Hello, how is your life going? For me, I always seem to be in two different kind of states. I used to say it's either I'm open to the world or I'm shut down to the world, or you could speak of it in terms of optimism or bipolar. I was looking into bipolar for a long while, as I definitely show characteristics, or I did in the past, but actually learning the pattern and recognizing it within yourself, regardless of some label construct that someone wants to prescribe you. Learning and observing patterns, especially over time, is quite. Time is the teacher, really. But yeah. So it's normally I'm either overly optimistic at the world, or it's kind of the opposite, where it's basically you either feel like you are where you need to be and you're going where you need to go, unless you're in the present moment or whatever, or you're not that, or you're because there's something that's been happening. It stopped a little bit recently, but while I'm at work and stuff for the past few weeks and things, it's there's always it's the nature of how your mind works. It's I notice that I'm always subtly worrying, but another way to reframe it is it always it felt like, or it always feels like it, for the most part it has for 2 years, to be fair, it always feels like you're not where you're supposed to be. As if you're always going. I mean, that is the nature of the game, I guess. The past moves into the future, so it's like Sisyphus. You just move forward into the future with effort and energy. For them, unless it's way woo way, but as far as I'm concerned, effort and energy is a part of survival. And but yeah, I didn't really want to talk about that today. I think I wanted to talk a little bit about reality, and God, psychedelics, awakening, some of the deepest stuff there is for me to talk about. If you care. So here's how I'd put it: is I'll somewhat approach what I'm about to say. It's not premeditated, but I'd say this to anyone. This is kind of what I know. But in a sense, imagine you've just entered the world, and I guess there's something I want to tell you, maybe, or it somewhat applies to youth. I feel like it would be it's easier to tell someone younger, not that I would, but it's kind of passing down what you've learned in a sense. But I mean, you can only say it to youth because it's almost, because I mean, obviously then as you grow up you notice that youth is basically it's literally just underdeveloped in terms of they're easier to manipulate, is just because of the nature of they have this unknowingness, and you can kind of see through them in a way, and that's just how it is. When you look back at your past self, you see that you were just less mature. But anyway, that was kind of just a tangent. But what I mean is imagine I was some authority figure, maybe you entered this place just now, this realm, or a lot later than I did. So I'm an elder, that kind of concept, but not necessarily. But anyway, it's not necessary to really say what I'm saying. So welcome to reality. You're all in. This is going to kill you. Welcome to what's basically an infinite fireworks show. Hold on. So, basically, self-deception is huge here and in general. So what you think is the case now, you will not think is the case. Not 100. It depends if it's like an absolute truth or just in general. But your understanding of reality and your consciousness and your body, your mind, everything's always evolving forward into the future. Especially if you're an intellectual type of person, or just in general, but like basically it's like, you know how you look back at yourself when you were younger, like I just said, and you seem less mature, less knowing. This is the case now, and you will mature further. Take any public intellectual, for example, and you're, for the most part, it depends actually. I don't know about Jordan Peterson, but for the most part, like, I mean, probably, but their later work is the better work. With me, you likely would rather watch my later stuff, more evolved. I was watching a video of me 1 year ago. It's an unreleased. Well, it's called Unreleased Trip Report. Oxsn 7 grams. It's like 2 parts or 3 parts, 40 minutes, nearly an hour long. I'll link it below. But I'm like, that was only a year ago, because I'm not that person anymore at all. So that's one facet, is that there's nowhere to stand in a way. Because you can get in, like, if you listen to one public intellectual, you can get influenced by, or if you watch a certain vibe or listen to certain music, it's like you get influenced by the external world, and it shifts your perspective. So everything's kind of temporary like that. But without boring you about all the nuances of reality, like, what's the core of it? Well, it's related to what I just said. Yeah, get ready. Because it's truly infinite, like the true definition of the word infinite. It's not just because I'm smoking a zoot. Don't think that. It's been this way for a long time now, since awakening. It doesn't matter if I'm sober, it doesn't matter if I'm on mushrooms or weed, or doesn't matter, or acid or nothing. And to be honest, when I start speaking of it, it's like I'm actually like speaking like pure source. That's what it feels like. It's like there's no interpretation necessarily, and this is what I was saying earlier, is your understanding of everything will evolve unless it's absolute truth, which it still can evolve in some nuances of it, but it's like absolute, like what I'm speaking of here is like there's no question about it, because it is the case, because I don't need to contemplate. It's like you get directly verified that it's true. And I've said that in the past, but I mean there are certain facets that I've been sitting on the fence about this. I've never really said too much that I know is absolute truth. I don't believe I did. Not really. But yeah, so oh, you got a little duck, Luna. You got a little ducky. Good girl. So it's right. 1 second. So reality has the potential, and it will be in somewhere in time. Not that time exists in some ways, but time. But So it could be very self-deceptive, and it's necessary for it to be self-deceptive in order to create illusions. And illusions are really the ground of, I don't know how deep it goes, but I know that, like, well, to be fair, yeah, it's like, you can just, like, the whole way you could perceive reality can completely change. So it's just like, what even is reality then? If my perception can completely shift year to year, then what is... Oh, it's almost like it's all created by the mind. Isn't that weird? So enlightenment is very interesting. The way I can describe it is almost like you question everything so deeply, but it's way deeper. That it's not just fucking like armchair philosophy, as they call it, or like mental masturbation. Is like, it literally, like, you kind of like lose your mind through the process. There could also be like breath work and psychedelics and like these very like physical experiences as well, and fasting, but even just like cognitively, you basically you grow up and you use your mind. Most people just get on and they their mind grows, they evolve, and they go, but then you can do something where basically you basically, like, instead of like focusing on the external world or whatever, if you're but the thing is, you have to be very interested. So if you have like a passion, which I do, for like real philosophy, metaphysics, the nature of reality, what's going on, and that whole shebang, basically, if you're interested and you have like a passion, and I've been an obsessive person in the past, where I get fixed on things. So I like mastered Rubik's cubes. I got fixed on them. There's a video of me doing a Rubik's cube in under 30 seconds, while I'm rapping my Spencer Noble diss track. Search it up. Search Oxsn Rubik's cube. I'm sure you'll find it. But that's one facet. And then the butterfly knives and the DAVIDSON knives, I got obsessed with them. Geometry Dash, this game, I got obsessed with that. And it's like, so when I got obsessed with, hold on a second, this is weird. Did I even ask for this? How, if I didn't ask for it, it certainly doesn't seem that way. Most people would assume they didn't. It just kind of happens to you. You just kind of emerge. If I didn't ask for it, and it happened with just no context, excuse me? Supposedly. That's all I know, anyway. That's all the small self knows. Myself. This is me, right? I'm Baron. I'm a human on Earth. This is my identity, this body. But even that could be quite shallow. Maybe some people can see, but I mean, what if your identity was a construct in your mind, and you could actually shift this identity, and basically the boundary between you and the external world is arbitrary. I mean, not arbitrary, sorry, that's not the right word. Abstract, or a projection is the best word, actually. It's a projection. Basically, I think I've come to realize that everything is a projection. Slowly. I've been thinking that recently, and it seems to be becoming more apparent. Inner and outer space are exactly the same when you start hearing voices speaking inside your brain. And you might start to feel just a bit like you're going insane, and maybe you are, because inner and outer space are exactly the same. Why do I never talk about this stuff? I've been making this channel for so long, yet I've never hit the nail on the head. It's true though, that's the funny thing, it's because it's like, fuck. See, once it happens though, you can't go back. That's the fucking, the way you would probably call it the event horizon of the black hole, where it's like you basically pass this threshold, and like once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can, like, temporarily, you can forget and re-remember, but it never really leaves. But But what I was saying earlier basically is, so instead of being outward gaze, you can kind of turn the gaze inwards and like observe your own mind. Listen to lectures, take psychedelics even, but no, even not, because psychedelics are very physical in a way. They're like a siren that you hear and feel. That's a quote from Terence McKenna, and I would agree. It's a raving energy at times. Raving sacred energy. So basically, like the way that you can deconstruct logic, rationality. So it's basically, if you overthink enough, but that's not the only method, but it's one dimension of it. Is you overthink enough, basically, yeah, it's somewhat God realization, where everything gets more and more interconnected. I asked AI, the AI bot on Snapchat, if there'll be a mass awakening. Not saying there will be. In some way there will be, but it's hard to say. Like, because it's deeper than you think, basically. But yeah, the AI said, some say his definition of the mass awakening was basically a more in understanding that everything is connected. It's basically non-duality, pure oneness, which is its own, like, oneness is identical to infinity. Am I ready to say it's identical to that yet? It's on the tip of my tongue. Maybe I just need to have it proved to me. Maybe I'm not ready yet. I'll give you a clue. It's my Instagram profile picture. Fuck, I know it's true. But I'm gonna run out of storage. I'll conclude with a short story, but quickly before the short story. What I'm talking about, there's many dimensions and facets, but it really, how acutely are you aware that you are here now? I'm not talking present moment. Well, I mean, I am, but I'm talking about even like conceptually in an understanding way. I mean, you're fucking alive. Hello. What can happen once can happen again. Story. So I took a 3.5 grams of psilocybin magic mushrooms about a year ago. The next day I took 5 grams. I had a full non-duality insanity trip. It's not out yet because it was a bit too... I was like literally raving on the floor, like breathing and shit. It was like pure. I encountered a group of teenagers my age, and I told them that this will happen to them eventually, 100%. And I know that's the case. But you and me. Goodbye.